Welcome. My name is Leigh Mitchell, and today our podcast episode is live. And today we're going to be talking about the brave yes, how stepping outside your comfort zone unlocks your purpose. And our guest today is Jill Valentine, the founder of Ugo Impact. So welcome, Jill. And I am genuinely excited to talk about this topic with you because it's certainly a personal one for me. And you are such a beautiful and generous soul. I'm so excited for my community to get to know you better, and also to thank you for becoming a member of Women in Biz Network. We have so many opportunities to make amazing positive change in the world together. And I'm so happy to be working with you on that journey. So Jill is the founder of Ugo Impact, a life purpose and transformational travel coach, and one of the most quietly powerful people I have ever had the privilege of meeting and being in a room with. She created the Ugo Triple Change Effect model, and that combines coaching, volunteerism, and intentional travel into a framework that helps people discover who they actually are. And we're here to actually teach you a bit about how we found our way. A few years ago, I had the pleasure of joining Jill on one of her transformational trips. And I went looking for something. I couldn't have told you exactly what that was at that time, but I do know that it went on to shape the entire purpose of my work and how I show up every single day. So on this podcast, we're going to be stepping into your purpose, and we are going to talk about leadership identity and doing brave things, even when we're not sure where it's going to lead us. So I went to Costa Rica over, I guess, close to 10 years ago now. I can't believe that. And I found my true calling, which was to teach. And I never would have really identified that within myself had it not been the closing roundtable where everybody shared something that they found interesting about the other person. So we all got to share interesting things about each person that was at the table. And what came out of it for me was that people were saying that there was a teacher within me that was waiting to emerge. And as a little girl, I knew that school was something that I wanted to be a part of because I had such a difficult time in school. I had learning disabilities, and I would fantasize about what my career might look like. And that led me to play school quite a bit. I always wanted to be the teacher. I never wanted to be the student. And the journey, which you can read about in my latest LinkedIn newsletter, goes in depth about how I made that bold move to change the trajectory of my career, thanks to the Ugo trip. So Jill, welcome. Why don't you start by telling us about what the Ugo Impact is at its core?
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I'm so happy to be here. Oh my gosh, our time in Costa Rica was so special, so magical. And I'm so happy that it has led you, on the journey and the path that it has, and for all the ripple impact that you have made, since that time and before then. But so thank you. Ugo Impact, what it is at its core. Well, I have a deep belief, having spent a year abroad myself, living and volunteering in Uganda, and then taking a life coaching program and truly discovering who I was and what was possible for my life, and realizing how those two things together were really what helped me to have this true big self-discovery moment that changed the rest of my life. And I have come to understand that, making this kind of change and what is involved. I'm
Hi.
not quite sure. Leigh, oh, you are.
I
Hey,
think we
kind
dropped
of
off for some reason, but yeah, please just continue. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was just saying, I've come to really understand what sort of the juicy ingredients are that can help someone have that kind of deep life discovery moment that changes the rest of their lives. And so at the core, that is what Ugo does. We create these incredible transformational travel experiences where people get to go, get away, get outside of their familiar, comfortable environment to somewhere completely new where they are of service, contributing to a local community in a whole new environment and world with new people. And there's an opportunity for self reflection and growth and self discovery. And honestly, it's just this incredible container for people to take the time to really discover who they are, what matters to them, what's important, figuring out life priorities, getting a new perspective, and most importantly, coming to understand what's really possible for them in their lives. And that's what Ugo is, and a Ugo experience is pretty special. um, and I think it really meets people where they are. Like you said, you weren't totally sure, what you were looking for, but it provided you with sort of the answers. And that is kind of it's just created in this way that it meets people where they're at and helps them to discover and uncover things that will help guide them to live an intentional life, like that they choose, that they know is actually going to bring them joy and meaning and happiness. That's pretty much what a Ugo experience is all about. And yeah.
Yeah, and it's not just the trip, right? Like it's the leading up to the trip, the coaching to help you prepare and get intentional about, how to make the most of the time, and also really be clear about what it's not, right? And even down to how you're going to support participants, and the people, like, so your fellow participants, right? We all have to, traveling together can be really challenging, and so we all have to give each other grace and space, and then also those that we're helping. We need to be intentional about not, having our own agendas around what that might look like. So the prep leading up to the trip is so helpful. We get to know each other before we even meet in person. And then of course it's so exciting when we, get off the plane and we meet and we begin the journey together. So and then there was like the coaching at the actual trip, which was emotional and challenging, and it required us all to do hard things and face hard truths. I think every single person had, it was almost kind of like, it almost has a feeling of like some of the epiphanies at the Amazing Race, right? Where you're like, you have to get, you have to deal with unexpected obstacles that come in your way, and unexpected challenges maybe between different personalities. But the lovely thing is that it all comes together, and it's just been, it really was life-changing for me. So I can't believe it was 10 years ago that we went on that trip, right? Maybe a little less than 10 years, because you actually did a couple of trips prior to the one that I went on. And that actually leads me to my next question, which is that you're celebrating a milestone anniversary. So tell us about what you have planned to recognize, that important milestone, because a lot of businesses, they don't last, right? And I won't give away how many years you've been in business, but I'll just say that businesses over 5 years are rare. So
Yeah, so Ugo is celebrating 10 years. It was 10 years ago that I led So I had led another program under a different business name. And then I actually met a business partner, and we rebranded, and Ugo was born. And from there, I led my first Ugo experience to Nepal. And since then, oh my gosh, I've done Tanzania, Costa Rica, Puerto Rico, Ecuador, Peru, just and a number of programs multiple times in some of those countries. And this fall, we are going back to Nepal, a different community. We're actually going to the remote Himalayan region, like literally the remote Everest area, and working with an incredible organization called The Small World. We're building a school for vulnerable children out in the remote area. It's going to be epic. We're doing a little trek after. And so that it's like the coming back to Nepal after 10 years. And I think it's just going to be so special, really, really powerful. And we are also having an actual 10-year celebration party in a few weeks on June 5th for anyone to come out and celebrate with us the 10 years. It has definitely been an incredible journey that I am so, so grateful to have been able to do for the past 10 years. This has been my life's work, which I think is just incredible. It still kind of blows my mind when I really think about, this is what I do with my life. But I have felt so honored. There would definitely have been challenging times, obviously COVID being a travel business. It was really difficult and everything, but I've had, the privilege to be able to continue this work and continue serving both incredible clients like yourself, as well as the communities that we partner with abroad. And I just, 10 years. I can't believe it. My kid is 11. They were born just as I started my entrepreneurial journey. And so, I just have to, be so grateful. And I think it is something really special to celebrate, not just that I've, got to do this, but celebrating all of the incredible people who I have been able to work with along the way, the amazing clients, the incredible communities. It is totally worth celebrating, like people like you. So, yeah.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. And, who knows what's going to come down the road for you. I know that you've just been growing by leaps and bounds. You have a membership community for those that want to travel, but also want to do good in their own communities. So, there's lots of ways that you can get involved with the amazing work that you're doing through Ugo Impact, which leads me to the Ugo triple change effect model. Can you walk us through that?
Yeah, absolutely. So really, when you think about sort of change and creating change, it's not even so much changing. It's more just sort of the unbecome, like the stepping more deeply into, I guess, would be, the right way to really frame it. But the triple change effect is kind of around this change yourself, change your community, change your world. And so, you kind of picture the Venn diagram and there's overlap and everything, but it really is that we take people on a journey of personal and self-reflection and growth where that makes sense. Really, who are you? What do you want from your life? All of that kind of stuff really, again, I don't know if you're changing so much as actually just really deepening who, your sense of who you are and what's possible for your life. So there's kind of the lens and the programming around that. And then there's the change your community. And that's everything from both going and being amongst, new people and connecting with new incredible humans, as well as taking a look at who is in your life. Part of the curriculum does look at sort of the relationships, who is in your life. There's that lens, and coming home and really creating nourishing relationships and community around yourself, whether that's local volunteering or just deepening friend connections or, finding a mentor, like whatever it is. But it's the more like, who are we in community with, that's going to nourish us and truly, create meaning and love and connection in our lives. And then there's the change your world piece. And of course, that's for me, part of the most important, I believe deeply in contribution in our world.
Mhm.
And it's, again, being able to take a look at that, both from the action, the actual in-country, hands-on, impact that we're making with the community partner, but also like deepening our sense of what it means for us to contribute to our world, whether that's international or local volunteering, contributing by raising, an amazing family, contributing by just being a good human and there for your friends, whatever it means for you. It's around discovering that and helping you to foster it more in your life in a way that feels good and aligned for you. So yeah, and like truly, when we sort of start looking at all of that, just right in the center is incredible, profound, sort of change within you that will happen within your life, and joy and meaning all sort of comes right in the middle when we really hone in and focus on that. And yeah, just living a life that feels good. Um,
Mm, I love that.
yeah.
There's a collective approach to the Women in Biz Network membership, which I absolutely love. And that is that the majority of the women that join our monthly membership, they already have communities as well. And so we get really creative around how we can work together and support our members as a whole. So I know we're talking about some possibilities around co-working together. And yeah, I just love the brainstorming that we've been doing around, how to create a very different type of membership experience. So I'm excited to see what you're going to bring to our community. It's incredible that the work that you do, and I love that we can work together to bring the essence of what you do to our community as well. So I wanted to talk to you a bit about my experience, which is that I had the opportunity to really discover some unique talents within myself that somehow I kind of forgot about, because like I didn't really think about some of the more milestone memories of my childhood. And then, I've done so many different things with my career. It was hard to bring it around to really truly understand where to go with my career, because I was feeling a bit lost. I think I was feeling burnt out from entrepreneurship. I had been an entrepreneur for about I think at least 5 years when I joined your trip, and I felt tired and sick of trying to figure things out on my own, and I wanted to be a part of a bigger team, but I just didn't know what to do. And sometimes it takes other people that see things in you that you don't see yourself. And of course, there was yourself, but it was also some of the other women that were really bringing it together for me to understand what I was missing, and seeing things about myself that I maybe wasn't giving enough credence to. So, can you share any other stories of women that like maybe had a similar journey, and how you go help them to make those discoveries?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. I mean, we've had so many people come, on different experiences. And like you said, there's just this, the idea that you're away, first of
Mhm.
all, you kind of, people get to just show up as they are. They're not showing up as moms and spouses and employees and all the things. They just get to be. And everyone says that. They're like, I just love that I wake up in the morning and everything's just taken care of and I can just wake up and not be worried about what dinner is, plans and everything. And so the ability to just truly get to show up as yourself, and then be amongst amazing people, being of service, all of those things. So we've had people who have come who, like, similar to you, little bit, not lost, but just feeling there's maybe a little bit more, or feeling like there's something else that I'm just missing out on, or I'm not as fulfilled as I could be, or life's been a little bit of autopilot, and I need to kind of like take a moment and really kind of connect with myself and what do I want. So, we had this one lovely woman. She had come out of her marriage, and which can be a very, I say, kind of disorienting. Like, you're a spouse, you're a mother, and she, wasn't feeling super great about herself. As someone may when their marriage ends, and just, she's got a great career, but she just felt like, I need something to kind of help me just reboost who I am, connect to myself, feel good again. And she actually came in our Courage Community Kilimanjaro program. And between the service and the coaching and then climbing hilly, just the deep, deep connection to who she was, the power that lay within her, the incredible gifts and talents that she had to share, like it was like life changing.
Mm.
And she sort of references, there was sort of like there was me pre this trip and me since, and it has changed how she carries herself, how she sees herself. It actually led to her changing out of the company that she was in because the company didn't align with her values.
Mm.
Still in a similar role, but the company itself. So these kind of, like you said, career changes, people making big life decisions. She just was like, I can't be here anymore. That was the thing that she came to realize. When we sort of do the curriculum, there's, we look at a lot of different things, and I think that was the big thing that really was the realization for her, was this is the piece that's not feeling aligned in my life. And
Mm.
making that shift is going to change so much. And it has. And she's much happier just working for a company that is in line with her values. And she didn't even know what her values were before. So she wouldn't have known there was misalignment. Like, it's hard to kind of,
Mm.
put a word to it, or to kind of identify it, if you actually don't even know what you're looking for. And I think that's one of the big things I see time and time again. It's clarity. It's like stuff's all kind of, you're feeling, like you said, kind of feeling burnt out, feeling like something's off, feeling,
Mhm.
and then you go through the program and you're like, oh, this is why,
Yeah.
my marriage isn't actually what I want it to be, or I actually, I'm meant to be doing this whole other thing with my life. It's the revealing a part of you that you didn't really know. And often it's hard for that piece to be revealed or discovered when we're in our everyday that's familiar with all the same people. You don't really take a lens and look at things. And
Mhm.
that's what our experiences do. We've had, empty nesters who have given so much to their kids and are now like, now what? And they're like, oh, this is what I can do moving forward. This is who I am. So many women get, what I say, lost in motherhood.
Mhm.
There's like their 20-year-old self, and then they have kids, and they spend tons of time, understandably, focused on family and all of the things. And then the kids head off, and there's a little like, who am I now? And what am I going to do? And it's just that reconnecting to self. Like, you didn't necessarily get lost, just that part of you got pushed aside for a little while we focused on other things, while the mom of you got to be more present. And maybe the mom side of you can sort of take a back seat now, while a different side of you, maybe the artist within you, the teacher within you, whatever, the entrepreneur within you gets to step out more, the traveler within you. And it's just kind of identifying maybe those pieces that got a little bit lost. And so, oh my gosh, I mean, I could tell you about story after story of people, and their discoveries, but really it's just people discovering. I think that's it.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the thing. They come and they learn about themselves, and the implications are profound. It changes your relationships. It deepens your sense of happiness and meaning. It boosts your confidence. When you know who you are, you approach the world so differently.
Mhm.
Relationships can become like, just come easier. You create healthier boundaries. Um,
Mhm.
yeah. So people have come back with all of those different things, have come back and shifted in, relationships with their children, because of, just this realization of what really matters and how they parent. You know, I think it's just coming home and being intentional and realizing what's important to you and who you are, and then being able to live. So yeah.
I love it. And I think also one of the things that I think travel does for you is that it teaches you how resilient you are, because I don't know of anybody who's traveled that doesn't have a trip that goes, not as expected. So, I shared in my LinkedIn story that I ended up in Mexico City for like 48 hours because I got stuck on a flight that couldn't land, and then I missed my plane and I had an emotional breakdown in the airport. I'm so thankful I didn't get arrested because I was freaking out. I called my husband bawling my eyes out, and I was like, what? I don't know what to do. He's like, just go find a cafe and just, go outside, enjoy some fresh air. And so I went and found this open air cafe at the airport, and I ran into two people who were on the flight with me. And then we went to Mexico City. And then the next thing I know, my courage was like on fire, because they ended up going back to the airport because they had a flight to catch. And I was having such a good time by knowing that like I was going to be okay. And it was so beautiful in Mexico City that I ended up traveling back by myself. And then I ran into these two people that were locals that helped me navigate the airport and everything else. And they were just so kind. And I just was like, it just taught me so much. It taught me about, how generally nice people are if we give them the opportunity to to trust people. And trust isn't my number one thing that I find easy for me, is that I have a bit of I don't trust that the universe has got my back. I'm always scared. And through that trip, I realized that, oh my gosh, I can do pretty much anything. And aren't I lucky that I had this unexpected experience? And then another thing that occurred for me was through your core values exercise, I discovered what my core values were and what was not working in some of my work relationships. And I was able to adjust that. So, I got in touch with my core values. I discovered that I was much more resilient than I expected to. So I'm just curious, from your perspective, how do people evolve with purpose over decades in their life? Like, is it different what you learn about yourself in your 20s and 30s versus what you learn in your 40s and 50s, et cetera?
Yeah, for sure. There's actually a really great book by David Brooks called The Second Mountain, and it talks a lot about this. When we first head out in our sort of 20s and things and 30s, it's usually sort of, we're very fueled by our ego and achievement and climbing a corporate success ladder. Like, there's a lot of wanting to prove ourselves to the world, which is great. That's kind of, energetically, that's super awesome. And, that's exciting times. Maybe there's, new relationships and plans for family and things. So we want to get into the providing and all of that kind of stuff. And then what sort of happens is you do all that, for years. And then a lot of people start kind of thinking like, okay, is there more? Like, this is great, but maybe I've now reached, the level that I was hoping to with my career. I'm at the top of my game, or I'm, doing whatever for so many years. And then they start feeling like there's a need for more. And this actually happens even like because of our like the neurotransmitters and things that are released. Like, there's a big, hit every time you get a new promotion. And actually over time that diminishes and diminishes, that sort of like big dopamine hit. And then we actually start shifting more into seeking things that sort of are filled more by oxytocin. So more meaning, connection, contribution. There is definitely this shift. Our ego, we've discovered and we've learned, and what's really important in life are people and, being a good human and all of that kind of stuff. And so for those of us that are very lucky, we kind of like our ego kind of gets put aside, and it's more about people, connections, relationships, contributing to the world, being a good place, being a good human, enjoying our lives, like actually being present for our friends and our family. Those of us that don't, unfortunately, have that experience tend to continue on and end up burnt out and, cranky in later life, or just like constantly being fueled by this desire for power and money and stuff. And they end up lacking, the warmer, more important elements of life, the parts of us that, um, make us feel alive and loved. And so there is definitely a shift. And what I think is the interesting thing is that shift. Some people figure out their purpose earlier. Some people, it takes a while. It takes doing to understand. It doesn't just happen in a vacuum. It's like I'm able to look back and go, oh, yeah, when I did this, I enjoyed it. With this experience, I didn't enjoy. You don't know how something feels until you actually do it. And so in the doing, usually we've spent, however long doing lots of stuff and discovering. And so we're able to kind of look back and go, oh, that felt really good when I did that. And that didn't feel so good. And, and kind of help us to see like that is how we kind of understand our purpose and what lights joy in our life. And so, discovering, and I say not necessarily the purpose, because I feel like there is sort of an underlying why, like a who we are and how we contribute in this world. But it could come out through multiple ways that we are purposeful. We have purpose and feel purposeful when we're parenting. We feel purposeful and have purpose as a partner and a spouse, as a family member, as a friend. And so I don't necessarily feel like it's just one purpose. It's just feeling a sense of purpose. And so I feel for you, when you teach, it super fills that cup for you in teaching. And for others, it might be, I know somebody who runs an incredible program where they're taking care of the Don Valley. And that brings him a deep sense of purpose, to be giving back to the earth and taking care of the earth. And many of us can do many of those sort of purposes. But it's recognizing what are the things that fill us with that sense of meaning and mattering. And so, yeah, that is sort of what sort of shifts throughout our lifetimes. We kind of come to this sort of later period where things sort of, I don't know if it's slow down, but we kind of get to catch our breaths a little, and sort of say, hey, what is it we really want? We often jump into our lives and it is a bit of autopilot. Like, oh, I was supposed to go to university, and then I was supposed to go get a job, and then I'm supposed to, get the house and get married. And then some people are on that going, is this actually making me happy? Am I actually enjoying my life? And so it's just taking the time to say, if it's feeling a little bit off, what are the things that I can shift and change that will make it feel better, make me feel more fulfilled at the end of the day, make me feel like I enjoyed my day, I laughed, I felt alive today. And that doesn't necessarily mean quitting your job. It could just mean you need to add some contribution, or different relationships in your life, or a different perspective on your work. And I think that's a big thing, and it's sifting through that. And that's a big part of what we do at Ugo, is helping to kind of, what are the things, where are you at, and where would you like to go that's actually going to bring you more joy and meaning? And it doesn't necessarily mean tearing down your life, ending your relationships. It just means kind of taking a look at it. And maybe it's ending something. Maybe it's just shifting it a little, or adding a little bit of something else to your life. And I think that's the really important part. I think some people can be a little scared because they think it's going to be some huge, major thing. And it doesn't have to be. Yeah, unless that's what your, inner soul is calling for.
I love that. And I love how you talk about the ego too, like how we're driven sometimes not by the right purpose. It could be like, oh, I want to give back and do the right thing. And this is fueling my ego, which is making me feel better about myself. And so like that was a big lesson that I had to learn, is how much my insecurities and my ego can sometimes fuel the wrong feelings. And so I really appreciate that you mentioned that, because I think that was a lesson that took a long time for me to figure out. And I'm so glad I did. And I think entrepreneurship especially is something that, when your ego is like, filled with like lots of fuel as you're building. And then, what happened to me was that like, then there's the crash when things start to not be, you're not the it thing anymore. And, a lot of it is luck, but you think it's something special about you. And a lot of it is hard work too, but you just never know what's going to happen with your trajectory of your career and your business. And sometimes we make decisions from the wrong emotional place, and ego oftentimes drives us to make decisions that maybe aren't really fully in alignment of what really matters. And we're more kind of obsessed with what it's, how it sounds more than how it feels, right? And so that took me a long time to get in touch with. There's a big difference between how it feels and how it sounds.
Definitely.
So we talked a bit about how people in your program have changed, including me. What about you? How have you changed?
Oh my goodness. There's definitely, I mean, like you even just shared, there's that journey when you're starting, it is ego, you are aspirational and you want to make the money and make sure you're being seen in certain ways and everything. And similarly, it was through challenging times and a lot of, growth, and I don't even know if it's growth, but just a lot of self-discovery that I started really understanding what makes me actually joyful, what makes me happy. And it's never been money. Um, it's been being able to spend quality time with people, being able to be in connection, in community, being able to contribute. And, I think that has been a big thing, a big sort of shift. That is now what I focus on, like the Give and Grow community that I have. It's about being able to be with other amazing people and, volunteer in our local community together. It's not the big money making. It's not a membership I want to scale to have too many members. To be honest, I don't think that would be good for the membership or for my own sanity, trying to find volunteer experiences for a large group. But it has been so rewarding and fulfilling, and I love it. And that's what lights me up. Like I keep saying, to my partner and friends, like, this is our life. And I feel so many people are like, in business to eventually hit a payout, or down the road, it's going to look like this and it's going to feel like this. And at this point, I'm going to be able to live it up and do all the, and I have been loving my life the entire way through. I take time to make, I pick up my kid at 3:00 on the days that I have them. And, that's it. Day done. Work is over. I work 9 to 5 most days. I'm not up in the middle of the night. Like that's not what I want. And that's not to say my business isn't financially doing well, and that's not important, but it's just the realization of what really matters to me. And I've been very lucky. I created a business where, last March, I ran a family program. So my kid was with me, my partner and his kids were with us. We were in Tanzania with amazing people, some clients who had come before and had brought their kids. We were contributing. We did a safari as part of the program. And I'm like, this is what I'm doing and making money. Like, this is my business. So I've been so blessed to just, when I put more time and energy into my business, I get to travel more and contribute more, and be around amazing people. But one of the big learnings for me, I always felt like, oh my gosh, if I don't fulfill my programs, I'm not successful. And it's not going to, look good on social if I only have a small group. And I had a really challenging, 2023. I was, taking care of family stuff. I'd gone through my separation and all of that. And I wasn't in the capacity to continue to market and try to fill one of my programs. And I just came to a point where I was like, it's going to be what it's going to be. And we went with a small, intimate group, and it was amazing and magical and incredible. And I was like, that to me was a big thing. I was like, it was still successful, even though it didn't have, it wasn't sold out. It didn't have all the spots taken. And that for me was a really big learning, that this was an external success I was putting on because, all of the programs are like, should be able to fill this and 10x your business and grow. And I was like, it's okay if it's small. It's okay if it's intimate. It's okay if it's not, rocking the charts. And it was magical and it was amazing. And that was a big thing for me. And since then, I mean, not just since then, but for me, the key things that have always been my values are still where I lead my business from: connection, community, service, all of adventure. That's the stuff that matters to me. And that is how I show up every day in my business, caring about those things. And so it's been a journey, because at the beginning it was like, oh, how are we going to make the money? And now it's like, no, how am I going to fulfill on my values? Because that's what makes my heart happy and me happy in my life. So that was a big shift for me. And I've just grown in my confidence. I mean, when I first started, I wasn't making any money. I was, the relationship I had, I was, with a partner at the beginning, I was super underselling myself, all of the things. And over time, and having had amazing clients share with me, oh my gosh, this changed my life, and just deepening that, yes, what I do changes lives, and really feeling that and letting it land, and stepping into that power and owning that and saying yes, and this is the value. That was a journey, because I can tell you I would not have been able to charge what I charged from day one to now, but now it is worth that. It's still an investment, but my God, when I see how it changes people's lives, and people are like, oh my gosh, that was, nothing compared to how it has impacted my life. I would, invest that 10 times over for the change it made. That has been a big shift for me. Just being able to feel like, yeah, what I do is super impactful. And there is a price tag on it. And I'm way more comfortable now to charge that than I would have when I started. So that was a big personal journey for me.
Oh, I love that. What an amazing lesson to learn and to own, which is, it's almost as if you're writing this for me. So thank you. Because my last question that I'm going to start asking all of the people that I interview for the podcast is, how do you own your imprint? And, your imprint is the mistakes, the journey, what you learn about yourself, your skills, your all the things, all of those inner leadership, the DNA that you possess that you just don't know yet.
Yeah.
So if you were giving someone advice, and there's a woman listening right now in the season of questioning, searching, and feeling that she's drifted from herself, what's the one thing that you would tell her?
I would tell her to prioritize herself and invest, whether it's space, time, capacity, whatever, invest in getting to know who you are. Truly, and I cannot emphasize enough how much my life changed when I took that coaching program and discovered my values, my strengths, my limiting beliefs, what's possible for myself. All of that self-discovery is how I literally was able to create a business that combined all of the things that I wanted to, all the things that bring me joy in my life, used my gifts and strengths. When I run a program, it's effortless. For me, it's, because it's what I am meant to be doing. And I know that. And so really discovering yourself, discovering what's important so you can live an intentional life of meaning and joy. Like if you don't know what makes you happy, how can you go out and build a life of happiness? And so honestly, and getting away truly, whether that's, I even say away, like get out on a hike or get out and go stay, north of the city, to yes, let's go to Nepal in November and truly get away, but creating this space for you to really be able to like listen to your inner self without the voices and truly see, what's possible. And I think that's one of the reasons the programs that we run are so powerful, is it takes you and allows you to really see yourself, get away from, you know, like the voices, the expectations, the responsibilities. It's hard to see, what's outside the forest when you're in the forest all the time. It's hard to see that there's, a job other than being a lumberjack if you're in a forest. You know what I mean? You have no idea that you could be a mountain climber if you can't even see that there's a mountain. So that's a big thing. Taking the time, whether that's, with your Imprint program or whatever, taking the time to start discovering who you are. Biggest like thing I would tell anyone and recommend.
Yeah. And I think that like whether you're building a business or a career, it should work for you and it shouldn't punish you, And I know for myself personally, I honestly didn't think that after I became an educator and started teaching at Guelph, University of Guelph Humber and York, that I would ever go back to running the business again, Women in Biz Network. I thought that that era was done in my life. And, the universe listened to maybe what I was discovering about myself and said, you have to impart this on others. And so I ended up going back to it, but I went back to it on my own terms. And so part of owning your imprint for us and what I teach is that you should be able to live your life unapologetically. And that's an amazing thing about getting into your menopausal, perimenopausal years, is that your brain rewires. And all of a sudden, it's very stressful when you're going through it because you feel very selfish. Like I learned that I was like, well, what's going on with me? Like, I was so in tune to everybody else's needs and not my own. And then through therapy, I realized that it's actually my brain is rewiring to take better care of myself for the years where our health is paramount to our survival. And so once I realized that, I was like, oh wow, this needs to be shared. Like if I had known this in the earlier part of my career, I would have changed so much of the guilt and the stress and the sweating the small things that I do. So like my business is just as important as it ever was, but how I interpret challenges has completely changed. I'm able to roll with challenges and mistakes, and I don't internalize it and shame myself over it the way I did. There's no wonder why I had to shut down my business for a while, because the shame of feeling like all the things that didn't work out, and it was like weighing down like in a massive way. And so luckily I have amazing mental health support and was able to rediscover how to be joyful again. And part of that is realizing you're not going to be happy all the time. You're not going to make everybody happy all the time. And it's those feelings of failure are fleeting. And I love that expression for the acronym of FAIL that I actually was reintroduced to at a conference last week. And that is failure's first attempt in learning. And that was Women in Biz 1.0 was my first attempt in learning. And now I've taken that learning and reestablished a business practice that works for me in 2026, which is, leadership retreats in the forest, and I don't drink anymore, so no more cocktail receptions, not interested in that. So I think any of us can design the life that we deserve to have, and women should give themselves permission to do that. So how can people find you? We're going to wrap up now. How can people find you, and where can they get the information on the trip to Nepal?
Yeah. Oh my goodness. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. So Ugo Impact. I'm also on LinkedIn, Jill Valentine, and our website, Ugo Impact. So that's ugoimpact.com. There's information about our membership, Nepal, and then, you can sign up for the newsletter so you can hear about Indonesia in 2027 and Tanzania again in 2028 and Peru and all sorts of juicy adventures that are to come. So yeah.
Amazing. Oh, I'm so excited for you. And for the people that get to go on those adventures. So Jill, this conversation has meant more to me than I can fully articulate. I have such gratitude to you that is hard for me to describe, how life-changing that trip. I'm trying not to cry. It just, partly because of your work, how it's personally impacted me, but also because I know that there's probably a woman listening right now who's heard something that they needed to hear. And so that just fills me with so much joy. So for anyone who wants to explore what Jill does and find out more about Ugo Impact, I will have all of her links in the show notes. And if you're feeling the pull towards going on one of these experiences, please don't talk yourself out of it. I had to have my husband talk me into my own experience because didn't think that I deserved to go. That's what a lot of women tend to do, is they downplay their own needs. I'm living proof of what happens when you say yes. And if something has sparked joy in our conversation today, I would invite you to check out Women in Biz Network. Jill is a member. I built it as an accessible platform at $29 a month. You get access to a community of women entrepreneurs and professionals who will grow together. So I host these live podcasts every other Tuesday. So I look forward to welcoming everybody back again in 2 weeks' time. Thanks, Jill. And thanks to everyone for joining us live.
Thank you so much, Leigh.